I have been so excited about this particular session. The people that you see in front of you, excluding me, are a family here in London. I know they've just done so much and they do so much to help other people. And this is the Shah family. And they're doing something special for the food bank and some other groups, which you can talk about shortly. But this is a family that always seems to be in the mode of giving, and therefore I have a lot of respect for them. But Ritu, I know that you are here. You and I are the ones that have been doing a lot of the communicating back and forth. Why don't you introduce your family? And if you want to say anything about them, that's good.
That's great. Thanks. First of all, thank you very much, Glenn, for having us be a part of the show. It's obviously a new experience for all of us, so we're happy to participate and happy to help out. So to my left, I guess to your right, this is my father-in-law, Dr. P.C. Shah. He goes by Raju. That's his nickname given to him from, since probably he was born anyway. So he goes by Raju. And then next to him is my husband, Chirag. On the other screen, you have my brother-in-law, Amit Shah, and his wife, Anita.
Yeah. And you're also involved in different things. Like Amit, I know that is it an emergency room doctor? Both in St. Thomas and here in London. So I know about that. And I also know, I was just talking to somebody. Is it Anita that you were chair of the board of the Grand?
Yeah, I still am actually.
You still are, eh?
And soon, but yes, I am chair at the Grand Theatre.
The food bank's connection with the Grand has been so great. And so it doesn't surprise me that you're part of it, because they've really reached out into the community in recent years, and that's really great. And I heard also that you have a secret desire to be a party planner.
Yes, it is a secret. Well, I like to consider that I am a party planner, not a designer, but I do enjoy a good party for sure.
Yes, I've heard that from a few folks, so that's good. Well, listen, I want to talk about your family, what motivates you. But before we do that, people will be wondering, what has this got to do with the food bank? So let me just introduce it by saying last year at this time, I think one of the largest Indian festivals is Diwali, right? It's a harvest kind of festival. I understand that. And I know that a billion people around the world celebrate it. It's pretty awesome. But you had approached us last year and wondered about getting some food to the food bank in celebration of Diwali, and then we would distribute it out to other groups from there. And now this year you phoned and you want to do it again. And I think it's just so wonderful that you have done that. I think it was samosas you gave last year, plus some kind of sweets that you gave. They were just big hits for people when we gave them out, but you're doing it again this year. How did that come together for you as a family? Who made that decision? Dr. Shah, was it you or Raju, or who was it?
No, it really stemmed from Dad, so I'll let him speak to that.
Okay.
Well, as you already mentioned, Diwali is one of the largest festival celebrated around the world and by multiple faith people in India, like Hindus, Jain, Sikhs, and some sect of the Buddhism. And basically in these festivals, family gathering like Christmas and other family holidays, decorating, lighting up our houses. But another central part is giving gift and mingling with and community affairs. So with that spirit, and it also happened that I was born on a Diwali day. So my birthday, as per Indian calendar, is always celebrated on Diwali in the family rather than actual date. Okay?
So it rotates, it moves on a bit. Yeah.
So I thought, why not to celebrate the festival with the community and those financially challenged people and other part, and make it more widespread. So that's the conception of the distributing food to all the needy ones through. And then we are looking for the agencies who can handle this. And obviously, in London, you think about Glenn Pearson.
Think about my wife.
First time I called you, I caught you in Ottawa in your busy schedule.
Anyway, well, I first celebrated Diwali, if I can be honest with you, when I was 22 years old in Kathmandu. I used to do famine relief work in both Bangladesh and in certain parts of India. And I had a chance to go to Kathmandu, and I was really surprised that they too were, it was the Festival of Lights, and they were celebrating Diwali. So that was my first exposure to it. But I've had little since until you folks contacted us last year. And what a great thing that it has been for us. And I do think that I am interested, though. We often do things like at Christmas and things like that, like we give gifts to other people, so on and so forth. But I think for you as a family, I've talked to so many people that know you all. And as a family, you folks are really tight. You're very close, but you have this collective imagination about helping people in need. So you don't just do it on a celebratory day like Diwali, which we've appreciated that you've done that. Where did that start from? Like, as a family, what kind of brought all that together where you decided as a unit that you wanted to do that?
Well, as you already, let me say, it all started with our parents, okay? Because in 1920s or 30s, my grandfather lost practically everything. We come from the business community, but he practically put the family on the road in those depression and stock market and all that. And my parents were very hard and good. And they grew up with the one basic principles of share and care, okay? That's what they introduced into us. And also, most of the Eastern religion and most of the religion common motto, which in one of the Hindu Jain prayers, first thing we learn is a Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Yeah.
That means world is one family. And one of the biggest mantra which we chant is that Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, means all the people are happy. And all the people in the world, Sarva Santu Niramaya, everyone around the world remains healthy.
Yeah.
And Ma Kaschida Dukha Bhagavate, means nobody suffers the pain, and let's share our gains and pains. So with that principle, we learn to give and share right from our childhood. And here, as we see, our parent passed on to us. And then I was lucky to marry an angel named Jyoti. She came in my life for 53 years. Unfortunately, I lost her. But she firmly believed in that share and care principle and passed on to my children. And as you talk about the Amit and Anita, you can talk a lot, and Ritu is actively involved. And of course, the Chirag.
Yeah.
I have a long list of being the chair of the multiple charity organizations and places. So it all passed on by our parents, all nurtured by my angel, my wife, Jyoti. And we hope, and we continue to do that, that we hope we will pass on this torch to my grandchildren or their children.
Can we talk about that, Dr. Shah? I mean, I think, was it 2007 or something like that you lost Judy? Is that right?
Okay.
No.
Yeah, no. I lost Jyoti in 2019, but in 2007,
okay,
Jyoti was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Breast cancer, that's right.
And then in the same time frame, before she recovers from her radiotherapy, I sustained a heart attack and I had to underwent triple bypass surgery. So, and naturally, when you are approaching 70s and you sustain such life-threatening illness, you want to think about the state planning and estate planning.
Yeah.
And I sat down to share our thoughts, and Jyoti was around with my family. And as you know, you start write the will and you say, this portion should go to charity, and both sons, they say. And I said, son, if you pass on, you should spend and do the charity for this reason. And Chirag, who is a chartered accountant himself, and Amit, the brother, just they are the team. We are not going to do that. I said, what do you mean by? You're going to inherit my wealth and you have to get it. He said, no. He said, why can't you do it? I said, but I'll be dead. He said, why you are waiting for the death?
Hmm.
I said, what do you mean by? He said, you keep complaining about paying the taxes. So why can't you start spending today? And that's how, and then Chirag showed me the pathway. He said that. And I said, but I can't give $1 million like that all of a sudden to, I don't know where to spend today. He said, but I'm not asking you to spend $1 million. He said, you create a foundation. Start donating money now. And if you don't know, pile up in the foundation and look for the projects.
Hmm.
And that way, you can give all your appreciated assets and other, you can lower your tax bill and you can leave the assets for the family. So that's how it started.
Yeah, it's
So
not
Chirac
just
is
a
the
tax.
brainchild behind it all.
And
right?
I wouldn't say I'm the brainchild. I think really dad and mom have always been about supporting this community in various ways. And I think the concept is that, you know, why wait till you pass on? You want to see the benefit of the efforts that you're trying to help while you're alive. And I think that it's a great strategy to, you know, if you do have the capacity to give while you're alive and give to the causes that make a difference to you and see the impact of what you're giving. And I think that really is the critical opportunity here for mom and dad to enjoy, and dad now to enjoy the opportunity of seeing the impact of where he can make a difference in the community.
Yeah. Well,
I think we've seen that you get, I think everyone's experienced that you get happiness when you see people when you are involved in sharing and you're involved in caring for other people. That's sort of a true path to happiness and satisfaction. And so dad has been a pretty good example of that. And I think that he took that advice to heart and has been very active in doing a lot of different projects. And it's a very nice thing to be able to do. And it makes a lot of sense to do that when you're able to see the impact yourself. I think that's where it's at.
you're right. But what's so unique about it is that you've chosen to do it as a family. Now, I have seen that with others, but not very often. Usually people all branch off in families and they join different charities or different causes or things that they want to do. But and I know you folks are involved in more than just this, but the fact that you've been able to, as a family, to have that kind of impact on our community, I think is really important. And obviously you've done it in such a way that it can continue on. I think that's wonderful. But I mean, I know somebody named Adam Green, who's a friend of mine, who I know some of you know, but he said, I cannot speak highly enough about that family. He said, of all the people I know, that family creates such an impact wherever they are. And it's clear that you do. I've done my research in the last week and I phoned various people who've known you and it really is that way. And so I think it's wonderful that you've been able to keep it as a family in a world and in a generation, perhaps, in which families all go off and pursue their own interests. You've been able to do that, of course, and been successful at it, but you've kept it together as a family. Surely you must sense that, do you all?
I think the sense of family is deep with us. I mean, we're fortunate. We've grown up in an environment that's been a primary driver, and you know, very fortunate that our kids have all grown up together and see the value of keeping those deep connections. And so, you know, to us, I don't think we know any different. I mean, that is a very important foundational component of our relationships. And so that's it's an easy thing, Glenn. You know, you say that it's tough. You do see difficulties with various families, so we're fortunate that we are this well connected. But it's also this community, you know, living in London and living in a wonderful place like this, it's easy to keep connected as well.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, like you said, even though we each have our own particular things that interest us and we want to be charitable about, I think that, you know, when dad wants us to be aligned or asks us to be aligned, and, you know, I think the important thing is that we support the cause. And I think that's the important part. We really do come together.
Yeah.
And I'll add to that my wife inspired my boys, and of course they are your children, they will listen to you. But we had no girls. And I'm so thankful, Glenn, that these two girls sitting here, they are more than my daughters. I don't have daughters, but they fill in the gap more than any daughters can fill in for their parents. And particularly after losing Jyoti, they are my strength.
Yeah.
So, and Anita, can speak more to it, but the same principle they all have to their heart, share and care.
Yeah. I can see that, and I've heard it too in some of my phone calls with you in this past while. Could we talk a bit about Diwali, though? I mean, it's so easy. Like, we've just gone through Thanksgiving, for instance, as a community, right? And the public gave 50% more than they did the year before. And we started the food drive by saying, don't give. It's such a tough time right now, and we know that it's really, really hard. So we said in the press conference, don't worry about giving this year. We know that it's really, really hard for you. And that, you know, if you have it, give it. But if you don't worry about it. And then the public just pushed back against me like crazy when I said that. And they really wanted to care for other people, the vulnerable people in their midst. And they ended up giving 50% more. And as I've said since, you know, they didn't make a donation, they made a statement. And that statement was that this community does really care about its own vulnerable members. But I did want to talk to you about Diwali. I know it's not just a celebration like a Christmas or a Thanksgiving. There's a deep spiritual meaning behind it as well. I know that. I know there's a cultural meaning behind it and a family meaning. Could you explain it just a bit more? I know that you have, but could you go over it just a bit more so we can understand it better?
As you said, Diwali or festival life is universally celebrated right across, around the world. And of course, the India and Southeast countries and people are all over. And different faith carries different significance or make an occasion.
Yeah.
And to start it with the largest population in the world is like Hindus. They celebrate primarily, and all the religion basically goes to the same faith: victory of bad versus good, devil versus evil. This is what the central principle of celebrating the Diwali. Yeah. And Hindus, they celebrate the return of Lord Rama to Ayodhya after defeating Ravana in Sri Lanka, who kidnapped his wife Sita. So on that day, he entered the capital city of Ayodhya and everything was lit up. Similarly, in different part of the India, India has many religious faiths, okay? So some other part of India, they celebrate the birth of Lakshmi, because when the so-called Dev and Danas, the good and bad, so in inverted comma, they were fighting, and there was a wealth in the ocean, but to get the wealth, and then there was a nectar, which makes you like health-wise and other anything. But they needed additional strength, so they made a partnership. And in that partnership with that churn, the ocean, all the wealth came out, which we pray as a goddess Lakshmi. So it's also done as a Lakshmi Puja on that day too. Sikhs, for example, on that day, the holy city of Amritsar, where the Golden Temple is. So the foundation stone of the Sikhism, or the Amritsar, the holiest of the holy temple for them, was done on a Diwali day. Yeah. Not only that, one of their Guru Singh, when he was put in the jail by the Muslim, at that time it was the fights between the ruling parties, and he was released on that day. So that's how the Hindus celebrate. Yeah. Then Jain celebrates, because on that particular day, Lord Mahavira, what we call 24th Tirthankar, he went to Nirvana or heaven. So they celebrate basically, rather than mourning, reinforcing his principles of truth, non-violence, and multiplicity of the view. So, and Buddhism, some sect of Buddhism also celebrate with a different faith.
To simplify, it is good over evil and light versus dark. I think that's the version.
I like hearing both sides of that, though. I like hearing the details of it, but also the simplification. I think that's really helpful.
It's a celebration of
It's
prosperity and family.
Yeah, and it's essentially the celebration of good over evil.
Yeah, I understand, but I appreciate the details, Dr. Shah. That's important. Now, Ahmed, I have a question for you. You're an emergency room doctor, both I think in St. Thomas and in London, if I've got it right. But you know, there's a big development that just got announced last Friday of a lot of affordable housing units. There's 6 different groups that all came together along with the London Community Foundation to on the site of the old Victoria Hospital lands. And finally, after all these years, it finally got cleared, and they're building this. And these are for low-income people to help them get going. And you know, somewhat early in that process, you came along with those doctors, and you made a significant donation to that. Can you just go over that with me for a bit?
Well, that donation was made by our entire Emerge group in London, and spearheaded by my partner, Dr. Bill McCauley, who who you know well. And so Dr. McCauley came with the brilliant idea of you know, this population of people who this site is going to serve, people who need housing, who need a leg up, who need some assistance with challenges in their life. There are a lot of the similar population that we serve and work with in the emergency departments in London. So it did not take much for the entire Emerge group to say that it's very poetic for both the Emerge group to be significantly involved, and for this to be at the site of Victoria Hospital, where I did my medical school training. You know, before that building was taken down, I was there as a medical student, you know, over 30 years ago. So it was very beautiful to see that come together. And yeah, it's been a nice thing, and something really essential. As you know, you and I have talked, and the food bank is heavily involved in that project, and has made a substantial commitment to the project. And so it's very nice to see multiple groups recognizing the importance of that in the community.
But even there, I suspect that I could ask each one of you as a family, what is it that you're doing? What is it that you're involved in? And I'll hear all of these kind of stories. Like, it is an amazing thing. You don't have like a superstar other than your dad. You don't have a superstar that's out there.
I think we'd all agree Dad's the superstar.
That's right. But I mean, you've all gathered around. You're all creating this goodness, this darkness over light, as you've talked about. It's not just in Dwelly, you're doing it throughout the year in these things. And I think that is so important. And it's very important, I think, as society begins to really struggle, and we're seeing that now, to see families that somehow are able to keep that together and not just survive and get through all of that, but actually overcome all of that, to transcend it all, to pull together your forces and all your strengths and your talents and your resources, and invest them back into a community in a way that helps them to survive those difficult times. And I think it's remarkable that your family has done that. And I don't think I knew nearly as much about it till I started phoning around people that I knew. And I said, do you know the Shah family? Well, everybody did. Everybody had something to say that was so wonderful and so good. I mean, it must be something for you as a family, I would think, to know that as this community sits there and looks at itself and the struggles that it has, and also the good things that it has, that you didn't just individually make a difference, that as a family that you did, that somehow you were able to draw strength from one another, help from one another. I think, Dr. Shah, you told me, I think that you had a health scare back in 2007. Was it a heart problem or whatever it is? But rather than just kind of withdrawing into yourself, you use that to start foundations, right? That's what you have done. It's such a remarkable thing. It's not a thing that's often talked about or even often happens, and that you folks have done that. And I just really, I hope you know that your faith, your religious faith, your belief in one another and in your community and in this belief in goodness has a direct impact on people like us. I mean, when I heard about it, it was great, but I hope that you see that. And for all the, you know, all these people are going to come out on October 21st to the 24th to the food bank because it's Diwali, and they're going to get all this food that you have provided. And they're all going to break apart the sweets, and they're all going to want it. And you know, you're going to help people with nutrition and all of those things. But that came from someplace. It wasn't just a an anonymous donation. It was a family that was tight, a family that believed in what it was doing. I hope you realize your specialness in that way, because that is what you are. You do realize that, right?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for your kind words.
Very
That's
kind.
kind of you to say. I think that we'd all say that I don't think we feel we're unique in the community. I think you're aware that there's lots of people who give. I think we feel that the community has given us a lot back. Our parents, all of us, Rithu's family, Anita's family, we all actually grew up in this area. We all of us immigrated here, to Canada, either first or second generation, and our kids have grown up here, and we've received a lot back from the community. And I think there are a lot of people who work to keep this community going. So yeah, I think we're pretty lucky to be part of that, a small part of that, I think.
Well, I think you're special, and everybody that I phone thinks the same thing. So I'm sorry you're kind of in the minority there. I think it's totally true. I think it's totally true that so many wonderful people and families are doing so many wonderful things in London, but the diversity of what you folks have done, the long-term commitment that you have made, I think, and also your faith and your ideas of goodness and dark over light, those are very, very special things. And I just want to thank you as a family for having that kind of impact in London. And I'm really looking forward to seeing some of you anyway on the 24th when the food comes down to the food bank and gets distributed. Thank you for having that kind of interest in people who are suffering food insecurity, who can't afford food right now because it's up 15, 20%. You stepped in again, just as you did last year. And that will go to people that could really use it. I thank you for having that kind of testimony, but for stepping in and making that kind of difference. You're all pretty special. Individually.
And I think we would like to thank you for all that you do in the community, because it's critical that these areas of need are not met without those stepping up to help out. So thank you for your efforts.
People like you folks that make it possible. Thank you, everyone. Happy Diwali next week. And thank you, Dr. Shah, for all that you have done in bringing all of this together. It's a wonderful thing.
Thank you. And I thank you, as Chirag says, a lot of people have money, a lot of people have desire to give, but they don't find the right medium and right person to manage it. And let me tell you, you are a champion in that, and I don't need to introduce you to London people. They all know who you are. And second, I'm thankful to my good wife who is not here, and my children here who continued that torch and helping me out. And thank you once again. Happy Diwali to you in advance.
You folks are awesome. Happy Diwali. We'll talk to you again.
Happy Diwali. Thanks, thank you, Glenn.
Who are these people you've been calling? I want to know. Edit that.
Well, I could tell you a bunch in the medical profession that I have spoken to. I haven't talked to Bill McCauley, but I've talked to others. But Adam Green put me on to a number as well. And then once I found out that you were chair of the board of the Grand, because the Grand has been so great to the food bank. It started a few years ago when they started doing a Christmas carol and became Mary Poppins, and this year is going to be about Elf. But I mean, we go to that and it's just so grassroots. I mean, people come and they bring their kids to those performances in the month of December. And then the Grand ends up raising all of these funds that comes to the food bank and goes out to people. So I asked some of the folks at the Grand about you and heard all these fantastic things. I mean, it's humbling to listen to all what you folks have done with others. And I just really thank you for it.